Hey guys, this video is sponsored by Grim Hollow, so stay till like the end of the video and I'll tell you more about it. It's a really cool Kickstarter that you should totally go check out. Okay, yep, we're calling another thing dumb. Who's gonna call me out next? Is it gonna be Cody with a new video? Is it gonna be Bill Allen coming up to me in a bar at Gen Con going, intelligence isn't dumb? No, today actually it's gonna be a little bit more on a positive note, because I don't want to call these things dumb. They're not really dumb. There's just an idea in my head that I think is dumb, and I feel like a lot of other players say the same thing. So what we're gonna do today is agree, right? We're gonna come up with some creative solutions as to these dumb things. I'm gonna turn on autofocus. Okay, so what do I mean when I say magic resistance is dumb, or magic damage? So for those of you who don't play 5th edition, there is a type of damage you can do, I think it's in other editions as well, probably, I don't know, called magic damage. And what it does is it does magical damage to monsters who are resistant to damage that isn't magical. So in terms of the game concept, essentially what it is like, you can't hurt this monster unless you have a magical weapon, like a sword, or arrows, or a spell. And the reason is the monster's supposed to be tough, it's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to be difficult to fight for lower level players, and that magic is supposed to do damage to them. Or there's typically a lore reason as to why, like some primordial eldritch being could not simply be slain by a knife. It would have to be a +1 knife. Now in 3.5 in Pathfinder, I believe there is this thing called Masterwork Weapons, and Masterwork Weapons, oh god, don't quote me on this, is a weapon so well crafted that you could enchant it with magic. It's not a magical item, it just could be enchanted into magic. I should just let you guys know right now that these videos where I'm kind of just talking on the couch or on the floor are off the head experience, and I'm not claiming to be like a master of knowledge or anything. I'm just kind of ranting like a YouTuber. So most magical weapons in the game do deal magic damage. Well, that's not the perspective we should look at it with. The perspective we should look at it is from the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master gets a stat block, and in the stat block it says, resistances, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks. Okay, so as long as they use a magic weapon, they will hurt them more, and if not, it will not hurt them more. And the DM's like, yeah, this monster will be hard unless they use their resources, their magic, their magical items, and things like that. Only some of them can do damage. It's gonna be so hard. Except for the few people that do have magic items. It'll kind of be a cakewalk in the park. But then when a player who doesn't know that this creature has magical resistance will come over and they'll be like, stab! They stab, and they do 4 damage. DM's like, oh well, wait a second. How do I explain this? It just hurts, it just says resistance, like they partially resist it. As if a creature is can't be simply killed by just such a menial item. So the DM, from my experience, most time just says, you don't seem to do nearly as much damage as you thought you would. As a player, you're kind of like, what does that mean? Especially if you're a player, you don't know what's going on, and you don't know what magic resistance is. You're just like, how am I doing not as much damage, but Jerry with a vorpal sword is doing just fine? So this can be confusing for some players. They don't necessarily know what to do about it. Spells are working fine. Super cool weapons are working fine, but their, flimsy little dagger and their sneak attack isn't doing anything. I'm just like, what the heck do I do? What do I do about this guy? So this entire video has nothing to do with the fact that magical resistance is a bad thing. Let's get into that. Hi, I'm Jacob Buds. I talk in circles and don't know how to illustrate a point. Don't worry, I'll get to it by the end of the video, but you may be confused. So if we were to change magical resistance, let's just get rid of our other thoughts of all of this point for now, just thinking about what would we do if we were just to get rid of it? Well, we would want to make enemies have more health and make them immune to certain types of damage, right? So let's say, magic damage, that's not a thing. Let's just make that aboleth. Did Aboleth even get that? Let's make that devil have a quarter more hit points, or maybe half more of its hit points. Well, what that does is it just makes the enemies have more health, and I don't know, it just makes fights longer. It doesn't make them more interesting to figure out how to defeat the certain monsters. Logan has talked about this before, and I kind of agree with him. I really wish 5th edition monsters had more weaknesses, like acid vulnerability, or just vulnerabilities in general. Give them like a regular amount of health, and then give them like resistances and weaknesses or vulnerabilities. And then the players throughout the combat can have a really fun time trying to figure out like what to do to kill them. Like trolls are always really fun because they have fire vulnerability, and it's like if you do fire to a troll, wait, they don't have fire vulnerability, fire just keeps them from regenerating. Treants have resistance to all damage, even magical damage, and their vulnerability is fire. So as long as you're using fire, there's a fun way to kind of, you know, it's an interesting combat. So, getting back to my point that I was trying to make, magic damage. What is that? See, you can easily define fire, firebolt, fire arrow, oil, tinderbox. Like, you can make that happen. Acid, things like that. You can prepare. Electricity. We all know these types, okay? What is magic type? It's just magic. Like, it's not spells, obviously. Spells are all different types of elements. So it's just like, what is magic? I explained magic in How to Play Sorcerer with the Vsauce thing. It's like the weave, and it's like you can control it and stuff. I mean, that's it in Forgotten Realms, I think. Magic can kind of be whatever you want, but magic is magic. It's, you know, ooh, is this your card? So we're getting to the point of my video now. I don't understand how to visualize magic. What does that look like? What does a magic sword, what does a +1 sword doing damage to another guy look like? Is he planarly bound and magical items are beyond all the planes? And that's how Logan explained it, actually. I gave him this concept for the video, and he was just like, well, it's like planar entities. If they aren't native to the plane, like ghosts or elementals, then it's like magical items hurt them more because it's not physical things, it's also the universe itself trying to hurt the creature. Which I get, that's cool, but I think there should be a way that we should explain it. There should be some kind of cool little flavor text. Instead, when you get magic fists as a monk, it's just like, your fists are magical. What does that mean? Do they glow? Do the monsters not like glowing things? Let's come up with a few ideas as to what magical damage could mean. So let's say you've got a +1 dagger. What is a +1 dagger? Well, it's probably an exceptionally sharp dagger. So maybe its hide is so thick, or the elemental's flames literally are made of fire, but it is so magically sharpened that it can cut through fire. So I think overall, there should be more fun ways to explain magic items in terms of how they damage other creatures. Because it's not like the Dungeon Master needs to go through and come up with a bunch of unique ways as to, wait, you could totally do that. Wait, that's totally an option. Alright, okay, so there we go. But why don't we do that? As Dungeon Masters, why don't we just come up with unique ways as to how they overcome the resistances? So if they've got a +1 dagger and they're fighting Zariel, what if that +1 dagger is magical in the point to where it pierces through some of the armor? Or maybe they do like a flourish or something and they go, like maybe it's easy to handle. Or if it's a fire dagger, which devils are immune to, so I guess she just wouldn't get burned. That's a bad analogy. You know, there's a lot of way better YouTubers that are out there who make much better D&D content than I do. Anyways, I do have an idea. I have an idea for how this could work, and maybe you can take this idea and work on it further down in the comments without blasting me on how many rules I got wrong during this video. Creatures with magical resistance also have magical items that make them more powerful. So let's say Zariel has a magic resistance. I'm pretty sure she does. Most high-level creatures do anyway. Perhaps she has armor that has magical resistance, and gives her that resistance unless something else magical is able to undo it. Perhaps magic items are inherently resistant to other things, much like the ring from Lord of the Rings and can only be killed by the fires of Mount Doom. Okay, so what if magic items can only be hurt by other magic items? That's probably a rule already, and I'm just getting it wrong. What about creatures that can't feasibly wear magical items, like a Dreadnought? Astral Dreadnought. This guy has resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks. Well, okay, so let's say that, let's just flavor it out as magical damage can pierce through things easier. So I really like this description that Matthew Mercer once gave to Sam when he was giving him his sword called, what was it called? Myth Weaver or Myth Carver, one of those. And I know it was a special part of the magic item where it was like a bard's weapon basically, but I really liked how it kind of vibrated as he held it. And I was like, that's interesting. That's a really cool way to go about these magical items, because what if they made little tiny vibrations, and those vibrations guided the strikes? And what if the weapons were just a little bit alive? And, you know, not sentient perhaps, but maybe like plants and trees. They had a little bit of life in them, and they were able to almost help you defeat the monster, as if they could move a little bit on their own, and they were very light and easy to use, and they just did lots of damage somehow, just by magic. It's simple enough just to be described as magic, but it also has a really cool way for you to describe it. So you have your dagger, and you run over to the astral dreadnought, because that's what you're fighting, and you have a non-magic dagger for some reason. You know what, let's not get into that. And you go over and you stab it. And the DM just says, as soon as you go over, you do hit it. You manage to go over and your dagger connects with the skin of the dreadnought, but it just bounces off. Its skin is so hard. You do make a small incision, but nothing else beyond that. Strange. The player thinks, what should I do about this? It's just really tough skin. How very strange. And then the wizard casts a fireball, and the fireball, boom, blows off the side of its face, and it burns some of the hard-plated skin off the side. And that player goes, fire seems to work. And then the fighter with the Vorpal sword comes over, and like butter, cuts right through it. And he goes, that's right. The Dungeon Master had described that Vorpal sword as being somewhat magical. It was lighter, it swung easier, it was unbearably sharp, kind of giving into the idea of why some weapons can be +1, +2, or +3, because it does more damage, as well as also, you know, hitting a lot easier and also overcoming the magical resistance. I think that's just a part of the weapons in terms of the description that we have to give them. Is it's magic damage, magic, we don't know what that means, it's just magic, but we can describe it in a way that's basically like, it seems to deal more damage to this creature, because your weapon is able to cut through it so easily. Or you can just ignore all of this and make the game easier on yourself and just be like, you need a magic weapon in order to kill this guy, it's too hard. And the player's like, darn. Wish I had that. Anyways guys, thanks for watching this video of me ranting about magical damage. I hope it was helpful for you, and if it wasn't, I totally understand, because I'm a difficult person to listen to. I don't understand at all how I have a following. Our sponsor for today's video is Grim Hollow. They have a Kickstarter going on right now. It's got a few days left. Go check it out. It's gothic horror, like a dark fantasy setting. It also has rules for players transforming into vampires and liches, which is really great because they've curated it and they've play tested it, and you know what you're getting out of this is something really good. Plus, that art though. Look at that. So dope. Ooh, very nice. So go check them out, because I like having sponsors, and that's the end of the video.